Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm thrilled to have you here and to show you step by step how I meal prep. I want to give you guys what you want, so here's that longer format you've been asking for. You can really see step by step my whole process from beginning to end, and I'll jump right in. So here I'm starting with planning. I like to plan out what's going on the stove, what's going, in the oven, so I have a game plan and I'm all set. So let's begin. We're going to have fun. So, a quick note on planning. It is extremely helpful to have some kind of game plan, some kind of framework for, whether it's what you're making, what's going in the oven, at what time, especially when you're newer to this and you're getting the hang of everything. I recommend it. And believe me, I don't think every single little thing about it needs to be planned out, but it's certainly not fun every week to pretend like you're on an episode of Chopped. Like, what can I scrounge together? So when I do this, I feel like I'm able to plan balanced meals and also make sure that we're eating different, a variety of things week to week. And you guys know I don't repeat meals very often. I mean, I have my favorites, but I certainly don't repeat them week after week. And that's part of them not feeling monotonous. That's part of it feeling like you're eating, something different. You're not bored. But yeah, that none of those things really matter to me anyways. I never feel bored eating meal prep. And I've really realized the sweet spot for us is to have 5 days prepped ahead. So that means breakfast, lunch, and dinner for our traditional American work week. Yes, that's right. And then that also gives us some flexibility. If we happen to meet friends out one night, maybe we weren't planning to, kind of leaves us a little bit of flexibility. We don't have to be so rigid. So anything, that makes it to the end of the week goes in the freezer anyway. So we're good to go. Now that all the containers are lined up, they're open, they're ready to use, I'm going to turn on, preheat my oven. Of course, that means I'm also turning my vent fan on. I always check the oven to make sure I didn't leave anything in it. But I also can't emphasize enough that if you are cooking indoors, especially on a gas stove, you need to turn that fan on. It's not just to keep the temperature down in your oven, it's also to help remove the cooking fumes, the fumes from cooking. This is knowledge that I learned in my master's in public health and nutrition, and I will always stand on this soapbox. So here you can see that I'm stacking the containers onto a sheet pan. I've realized this is so much easier taking them in and out of the oven than trying to grab them all one by one, maybe dropping one. So I just stack them on the sheet pan and make my life a little easier. Here I am spraying them with cooking spray. I use olive oil and this little one you can refill. I love that I can just put my own olive oil in it and refill it. So yeah, giving them a quick spray so they don't stick. And yeah, I made the switch to all glass containers a few years ago, and it was an investment. They're expensive, these little containers, but they go directly into the oven, so that just saves me so much time, especially once it's like, cozy season. You want to bake things in the oven a lot. Out of the freezer, I grabbed some frozen green peppers. I had diced these a while back, and I bought them on sale. I bought the fresh peppers on sale, and I just had way too many, so I figured I'm just gonna slice them up, I'll throw them in the freezer, and I'll use them in meal prep whenever I want to. This strategy is so great if things are on sale or you're not sure, if you'll get to all of it in, the week. It's a great way to save things from going bad. You're going on vacation. Yeah, I love using fresh produce, even like store-bought fresh produce. I use it all the time. It's so affordable. And it's really just a great way to get produce and, save some money, save some time. It's amazing. As I'm going here, you can see I'm breaking up any big clumps, and I'm kind of redistributing a little bit too as it goes. So that's part of the meal prep, having everything portioned out. That's a little bit. Sometimes it's trial and error. Sometimes I put a little in, I take a little out, I put some in one, then the other, and it's just always, a balancing act. Here I decided that this was enough. They're full enough of the peppers, so I'm putting them back in the freezer. I'll flatten them out so they fit nicely. And yeah, back for another day, ready for, they'll make another debut on another video for you all. So now comes the fun part, the tofu egg part. I love making eggs this way, especially baking them. It's an incredible way to get your eggs to go a little bit further. It adds some protein. I've done a video on these before and I still love making these. So, yep, that's what we're having this week. I drain the water out. You can squeeze all the water out if you want. I don't think it's necessary. So I'm gonna put this in here first, breaking it all up as I go, kind of squishing it in. So once the tofu's in there, I'll add my eggs in one at a time. I really, really enjoy this is super easy. Just right, like throw everything in the blender, bada bing, pour it over, bake it. Like what could be easier? And also for a minute there, the price of eggs had skyrocketed. So this is also a really nice way to save some money without buying so many eggs. Next, I'm adding in salt. This might look like a generous amount, but remember this is for a whole week. Lots of pepper, lots of pepper. We like it. We like some spice. So pepper goes in, salt, and now we're putting the lid on. We're gonna throw it on the blender and let the magic happen. So once I blended this, you can see I opened it up. I looked at the texture. I was like, "Ooh, beautiful." And once I set it down, I grabbed a spoon and I could tell that the texture was a little too thick. So if you see this here, it's just a little too thick for my liking. I think if it's too thick, it doesn't bake very well or just takes forever to bake. So I'm adding some milk in here. You could add water, whatever liquid, liquid of choice. And I just decided, oh yeah, I have some of the spinach in the fridge too. That's definitely, could go in a salad, but it's not going to make it much longer. So let me just add it in here. And I haven't talked about it a lot on here on my channel, but I hate wasting food. It's just I hate throwing things away, or we don't waste food in this house, which is why I try to always think about, can I put this in the freezer? Can I throw this spinach into my egg mixture, stuff like that, because I just want to make the least amount of food waste possible. And yeah, and in this case, you're just kind of spooning it out, giving them a quick stir, and of course, it will come as no surprise, I'm also a bowl scraper, so I'm scraping every last drop and distributing it so that they're even. Something else that I do to save myself a little bit of a headache later, I try to, you can vary. I'm very meticulous here, but I'm trying to just scrape down the little bits that might be on the side because they'll burn and then I have to scrub them off later and etc. So just saving myself some time later. And it was at this point that I realized that since I put more of this mixture, like I filled my husband's containers a bit fuller because he tends to eat more than me. He's just a very hungry person, that I wanted to put them on separate baking sheets because my husband's would bake a lot slower than mine since mine aren't as full. So yeah, just putting them in here and into the oven they go. So while those are baking in the oven, we're going to move on to the next meal. For this, I'm getting out my cutting board. I'm getting out a big pan. You guys know what I'm going to make? I am cutting up potatoes. I'm going to make mashed potatoes. I have not had mashed potatoes in I have no idea how long, but they sounded so good this week. So that's what we're making. So we're just cutting off the bad parts, the parts of the potato that, while they were being harvested, they didn't quite make it. And I always keep in mind when I'm going to boil potatoes or really anything, especially something I'm going to blend up though like this, the smaller that I cut them, the quicker they're boiled and they're done. So you really could just boil these potatoes as is, without cutting them up, but let's make life a little easier. Speaking of making my life a little easier, this is my hack. I use my water kettle, my electric kettle, to get my boiling water started in these, so I just gave myself a little head start. So next, these are going onto the stove. They have a head start because they have that boiling water in them already. So while I'm waiting for those to boil and while those are boiling, I'm going to get started on the thing that's accompanying the mashed potatoes. So I'm going to start off by dicing my onions, and yes, I have a separate cutting board for onions and garlic. I cook with onions and garlic a lot, and I find that if I, in the past, if I didn't have a separate cutting board, that everything just kind of doesn't need to taste like onions and garlic. So this is a really easy way to just, set one cutting board aside and use it exclusively for something that you make a lot. I do the same thing with meat. I don't ever cut meat on the same cutting board I cut other vegetables or fruits on too. So like I said, we're dicing our onions. I want them to be pretty fine. It's a pretty fine diced because they're going into little meatloafs. Yay, yum. Also, please be kind here. I'm working on my knife skills. I want to be, professional chef level onion cutting knife skills, and it's a work in progress. So if you have any kind tips to share, please share them. It's also, I found that it's hard when my nails are longer, so yeah, that's its own fun thing. Next, I'm adding this in. I am obsessed with this salad mix. It's the Cruciferous Crunch from Trader Joe's. The mix is like kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and it's just, I think you can do anything with it. I really, really like it, and it's already shredded, but I really want this to be a really, really fine shred. So I'm gonna chop it up here even smaller, even finer, so that it's really easy to incorporate into my meatloaves. And I did this several times. I think I ended up using about half of the bag, and yeah, it adds like some texture. It adds just a little bit of variety when you're eating meatloaf. You don't want it to feel too ho hum. I feel like it's like a nicer way than adding crackers, that add like a texture. But here is the real secret. This is what I think takes this meatloaf to another level. That really separates it from feeling like, boring basic meatloaf. These are sun-dried tomatoes, and yeah, I had to, they smell amazing, they taste amazing. Had to give them a quick little bit of love. And yeah, so I'm gonna chop these up. I want these to be in really small pieces too, so you can see me doing that here. And also on that note, I just want to remind you guys, like, part of the fun of cooking and meal prep is making things that you like. And sometimes the way to find out that you like something or you don't like something is you make it. So you might put these in your meatloaf or your meatballs or whatever the next time that you make them and you hate it. And that's more than okay. I love to experiment and try new things and learn new techniques. And, this feels like one of those things that you could either really love or really not love. But, the Italian girl in me, she loves it. And the Italian girl in me is also all of a sudden very hot. So sweatshirt comes off and we'll keep going. And yeah, my challenge for all of you, I guess, too, is like, or what I like to promote is like trying new things, trying things that might not be from your culture. My husband did not grow up eating anything Italian cooking. He's Congolese, he's African, so he's adapted to my Italian cooking style. But I think overall he enjoys it, and I certainly enjoy trying new foods, especially from his culture, but from other cultures too. And yeah, sun-dried tomatoes, I feel like they might have a historical context, like Italian historical context, but who knows? I actually forget where tomatoes come from. Okay, I digress. I'm gonna mix this all up here and just kind of distribute it so it's, all evenly mixed together. Again, cook's best friend are clean hands. Okay, so if sun-dried tomatoes are the secret weapon, feta is like the best friend. I could not, imagine meatloaf without feta at this point. I feel like it's just synonymous with like flavor, saltiness. So yeah, I always add feta in here, and I'm gonna add it in, and I definitely am gonna break up some of those bigger chunks. Again, I mean, I guess you could leave it like that if you wanted to. I'd be very happy if I was the person who got that giant feta piece in my meatloaf, but I'm gonna break them up here. And now that everything's all broken up, all the feta's in tiny little pieces, I'm gonna give this a good mix. And yeah, I mean, you could probably just eat this as a salad, which, delish. Sounds like I could have some of that right now. And now here, I'm gonna add our eggs in here. I'm adding in 2, and honestly, for how much meatloaf this is, I probably could have added a third or even a fourth, but I'm just gonna break them up here, and I find it just helps kind of bind everything together. It keeps everything, stay, not too dense, I guess. And yeah, so giving that a little mix here. So now that I've peeled all of that off of my hands, I wash my hands. Big fan of washing my hands. And next we're adding in our ground turkey. I like really lean ground turkey for my meatloaf, but you use what you like. Again, this is what I like. I prefer it a little bit leaner. And we don't really eat a lot of ground beef or beef just in general in my house. But yeah, so I'm gonna mix it up here. I'm just gently pulling it apart. I don't want this to get like dense and heavy, so I'm just giving it a gentle, gentle separating, and then I'm gonna really get in there with my hands and mix it all up. And here I am trying to remember why I didn't add all 3 pounds of turkey at once, but here we are. I knew I was saving the last little bit for something else. I was saving that actually for the dinner I was going to make that night, for a Sunday dinner. But yeah, so here I am breaking up that last little bit. So yeah, you should have added that all together all at once. And I think I realized that I had way too many vegetables and I needed some more meat. So yep, we live and we learn. It's all a process. After a quick hand wash, of course, we're adding in kosher salt and also some pepper. And yes, should have done this before I mixed it all together, but honestly, I just kind of forgot and then went, oh no, don't forget. So yeah, I decided I was using a spoon this time and not getting my hands in there again. Do what you want. Alright, so after that is mixed very well, we're doing some olive oil spray again. Again, be generous here so they don't stick in your meal prep containers. That is way less fun when you're doing the dishes if they're all stuck. Okay, so everybody's got olive oil, everyone's sprayed, everyone's ready to go, and now we're gonna get started. So originally, I thought, oh, I was going to make meatballs. So I started forming meatballs, and as I made these, I was like, you know what? I just don't want to take the time and energy and effort to make meatballs. That would be totally fine on another week, but this week I was already, spending all this time filming these videos for you guys. And I just didn't have it in me. So as I put them in there too, I was like, you know what? Forget that. They're gonna become meatloafs. So I made meatloafs instead. So once I realized this, I evened that first one out and washed my hands. Of course, I wash my hands. I'll say I take the cross-contamination of meat in the kitchen very seriously. Any surface that I'm working on with meat, I'm always very diligent about cleaning up afterwards. But yes, so here I am. I'm just adding them into the containers. Apologies, this is a little bit off camera because I'm still learning. Shooting in this format is new for me, so I'm trying, guys. Bear with me. Okay, the better view is coming in just a second, promise. Okay, so here we go. We're stacking them onto the sheet pans. I love the sheet pan trick. I'm so glad I thought of it one day. So stacking those on here and they're going into the oven. And yes, like I mentioned earlier, I take the cleanliness of my kitchen really seriously. So Lysol spray, let it sit, and then wipe it down because we're gonna keep prepping on this surface and there's no way we can just let it be. So I use this little towel trick so I can fold this and set the containers here nicely for you all so when they come out of the oven they have a place to go. So while the meatloafs went in, breakfast comes out, so they'll let that cool onto the table here. And you definitely want to let food cool after, it comes out of the oven, it's, on the stovetop, whatever. And you don't want it to sit out for a million years, but it needs to cool at least 20 minutes. So you guys have seen me make overnight oats a million times. It's probably no mystery as to why if you've ever made them. They're so easy, they're not super expensive. And they're really filling. So I love oatmeal. Sometimes I'll, cook it and then put it in these. And other times I'll, in this instance, as you're warming up the eggs, you'll also warm up the oatmeal. So it kind of, you kind of get the best of both worlds by doing it this way. And honestly, Oatmeal is just, it's a favorite of mine. When you change the things that you're mixing in, the things that you're topping it with every week, you don't feel like you're eating the same thing all the time because it tastes so different, but you're kind of like, that is the same thing. It just doesn't taste anything like what I had last week, so it's refreshing. Um, I'm also adding in here, I decided to add in some almond butter. Shout out to my client who's 70. Ned, thank you for your almond butter. You're an angel. So I'm doing milk in the blender, almond butter, and then also some of the pumpkin spread from Trader Joe's. I definitely thought that I bought pumpkin butter and not like pumpkin jam. So mistake on my part. This is fine, but it would have been a lot better with pumpkin butter. We live and we learn. I also added in some vanilla paste, and onto the blender she goes. So we'll give that a quick blend on the blender, and we'll come back. We'll get the blade out of there for safety, and we're gonna add our mixture in. So I'm doing about a half a cup here. I don't usually measure, but in this case, it's easy to get it out of the bowl this way. But I am just distributing my mixture, and I want to add enough liquid that my oats are swimming. So I went back and filled the container with some water to add some more. I didn't make enough liquid. Um, but yeah, so give them a quick stir. And again, they need to be like swimming. You do not want dry overnight oats. Nothing is worse. And now for mashed potato time. I'm so excited. I love mashed potatoes. Salt, pepper going in first, and this is how I always pour them into. I roasted some garlic last week, the whole clove with some olive oil, salt, pepper, and then I froze what was left. So I'm putting about half of that in here. It's probably about two full heads of garlic because, garlic girlies unite. And I'm also adding in some kale. It's pretty shredded when it's in the bag already and it's pre-washed and everything, but I'll add it in here and just give it a little, give it a little more shred so it's easy to eat. So next, we're going to add in our milk of choice. I'm using dairy milk. I don't mind dairy milk at all. We prefer it actually. So adding in that in here, as you can see, I didn't measure, but I'm going to give it a quick mix on the mixer. And, if it needs more liquid, I'll add it. No problem there. And now we're adding in some butter. I don't usually cook with a lot of butter, although I love butter, especially French butter. But it's mashed potatoes. It's really like classic. It needs some butter in there. So now you can see the texture that you're working with. I like to leave a little bit of chunkiness to mashed potatoes, but that is entirely up to you guys. Oh, our little meatloafs are coming out of the oven. I do a little bit of a shuffle when I take these containers. These are cool. They take them off the towel, and then these I'll transfer onto the towel, but these little meatloafs in their own container in the oven, like it's a dream. Cooking in these containers is life changing. That's why I talk about these containers so much and why I promote them so much because I really, truly love them. And honestly, the containers are a huge part of the planning process. They really influence the time everything takes. Are you making something, on the stove or in the oven, and then you're transferring it to the containers? So I am so grateful that I was able to invest and get these containers that I can put right into the oven. I don't have to worry about um, you know, I don't have to worry about that anymore. Before I was using plastic ones and just more of a shuffle, more dishes. So this is really like a time saving thing too. But and also thinking like, okay, if I bake this, like these I baked, but I didn't want to bake the mashed potatoes. I could have done baked potatoes if I just wanted to throw them all in together. But I knew I wanted to make mashed potatoes. So really the hardest part of this is like planning out the timing of things. If I do the meatloaves, then I start the potatoes. Like that is really like a skill that you have to learn, and you have to do some like trial and error and some thinking through. But again, since it's a skill, it means you can learn it, which we love learning. And I'm almost done here. I'm just portioning all the potatoes out. And sometimes, I'll put some in, I'll move them around as I go. But almost done here. So first meal, yay! So while lunch cools on the table, I'll get started on dinner. I am obsessed with this mushroom medley from Trader Joe's. It's a great mix of mushrooms. It's got seasoning in it already, and I love to use this on, a day or a week where I know I'm a little short on time or I don't want to cut up a million and wash a million mushrooms. But I love mushrooms, so this really does the trick. So I'll let that get cooking and sauteing. I put a little bit of olive oil in the pan to start. And you know me, I have to add some veggies, some bonus veggies. So I'm adding some peas here just to give it a little more. So frozen peas, frozen mushrooms, easy peasy, won't take long to throw together. So this one will be done in no time and I'll assemble everything together. So I'd separately made, I'd sauteed and browned some ground turkey and some kale because I knew that I wanted to add some protein into this sauce. Again, love these veggies, but I'm a balanced girl. I like protein and I like some veggies too. So here we go. I'm just putting this in my giant bowl and giving it a mix. And you know me, I have to scrape every last bit. I want all of that saucy goodness. Now that everything's all in one big bowl, I'm giving it a big stir, and my pasta is almost done on the stove. Oh, there it is. Apologies for the steam. I'm learning here too. So mixing that up and it's good to go. It's really that simple. I love assembling things like this, thinking about things that you like to eat, things that you have in the freezer, things that make the meal more complex, right? So adding in complexity in terms of like nutrient variety, texture, stuff like that. So I love adding the peas in here. They're that little bit of green, and also just some more micronutrients, which we love. Now I'm moving on to my husband's containers. So these ones don't have any dividers, so I find that they actually fit a lot more food than the ones that have dividers. So I keep that in mind too of like how much I'm portioning, how much I'm making. Um, and yeah, that last little bit I redistributed between the other ones. So I'm all done. I'm going to add some hot sauce on top here to my eggs. I love hot sauce on eggs for breakfast. It's really just a fave. So adding that in here. Oh, and I also decided to add it on to the meatloaves. I kind of forgot about that. So a little hot sauce doesn't go very far in this house, but we love some spice. And yay! Everything is we are 99% of the way there, so we're celebrating with a little bit of iced coffee. Cheers. Um, so the only thing that's really left to do is just putting the lids on and stacking them all up. So I like to organize them so it's easy during the week. So I put day 5 in the freezer, but days 1 through 4 I keep in the fridge, and I keep my fridge really cold. I want to mitigate any bacterial risk from storing food. So I definitely am I'm very conscious of that as well. And as I get wrapped up here, I want to thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for supporting. Thank you for requesting this longer format. It really is a lot more time, energy, and effort on my part to film it and edit it this way. But I want to do things that are helpful for you guys. So send in any suggestions, comment, like, share. I'm so excited to be doing this for you all and thankful that you're here supporting me, and I appreciate it. Wishing you all a wonderful week ahead. Ciao.